Good evening. Welcome to the March 19th, 2026 Site Plan Review Committee SPRC subgroup meeting for the Air and Space Force Association project. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the AFA project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics on how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's events calendar, and the email notification sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Please turn sound off to other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who are planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise your virtual hand in Teams. We will monitor the video feed that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name to the group you are representing now, and I will verbally check in with you to see if you need to be recognized at various points in the meeting. So yeah, is anybody joining us by phone? For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called on to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. Speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees, or provide staff with your name if in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act requirements. So usually we start off with introductions. So we'll start with our project co-chair, Commissioner Torres.
Hello, my name is Adriana Torres. I'm co-chairing this project, part of Planning Commission.
Go this way. Steve Sockwell, representing Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
I'm Daniel Creed. I'm with Arlington County Department of Environmental Services.
Hi, I'm Gabriella Green. I'm with Current Planning. Christy Wallenfish with the Department of Community Planning, Housing and Development.
Aaron Roberts, North Island.
Samuel Giacinto, North Roslyn Civic Association.
I'm Sohail Hussain, Transportation Commission.
Jim Lantelmi, Planning Commission.
Suzanne Piles, Tycoon Property Partners, the developer.
Andrew Painter with Walsh Colucci, representative of.
Yeah.
JP Gonzalez with WDG Architecture.
I'm Beth Piles. I'm also with Tycoon Property Partners. Lauren Riley with Walsh Colucci.
Cynthia Abdurrahman, WDG Architecture.
Jim Wong, Tycoon Public Partners.
Rafi Balian, Palisades Park Owners Association.
Sally Peterson, Planning Commission.
Paola Modell, Planning Commission.
Sarah Walker with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Yes, I did want to call out, we have two actual SPRC committee members that are actually sitting in the back, lack of space here. So we have Andrea Walker with the PRC.
Yeah, we
should make room.
Okay. And we also have Gary Shitters with the PRC.
I'm Kevin Vincent. I'm the representative from the Planning Commission.
You too, right. You also need a seat here. Let's get these
We have rolly chairs, Maureen.
It's a rolly chair.
That was rolly.
Aaron. Same Civic Association. Okay. You're from Roslyn.
Awesome.
Thank
you for thinking so.
Of course. Come on in.
There are chairs over here. You don't have to.
Oh, we're adding a table.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's one way to do it. Let's go.
Where are we at?
Out of here.
I have a feeling
Why don't we do it
That's
next
impressive.
And hopefully this is enough. Okay, here we go.
so far away from something now.
So this is recording.
I'm sorry. Can you even reach your laptop? All right, I'll hand it to you.
And what's your phone?
Thank you.
Well, now that we redesigned the room, hi guys.
So we did introductions in the room. Did we get everybody?
We
I don't
now
think-
got everybody except me.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah Steinberger, planning commission member, co-chairing this SPRC for the airport site, and having you with you all. Apologies for being late. Hello.
Sarah, could I just make a comment?
Yes.
I realize this is out of the usual. When I looked at my website today at 4:00, there were still no documents associated with the website. There was just the phrase "coming soon," and I'm not sure what "soon" means under those circumstances. So I don't know if this is a browser issue on my part or whether it was accounting.
The materials were posted within the 72-hour timeframe that we have to post materials. They appear uploaded on my end of the site and by others who I asked to check the site. So I think you just need to clear your cache in your browser settings.
No, there's something else wrong because he's right. Because I've run into this problem a number of times before. When you first click on SPRC meeting on that page, it still says exactly what Steve saw. And this has happened with other SPRCs. It's only when you go to click on the project description and then it has the public process and that's where it shows up.
It is the project webpage itself that you have to go to.
Right, well, nobody knows that. So this is something that's needs to be really addressed.
I'm happy to bring this up with Matt Piper. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. For future reference, please do use the specific project website for the given project. But thank you. We'll make note of that.
Okay, I do appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We are going to still have the meeting.
It was posted.
That was where anyone was going with this. We already did the introductory materials, so I'm going to assume we turn to staff presentation now,
Okay.
unless there was something.
Virtual people.
Oh,
introductions.
virtual people, anyone virtual who's a member of the SPRC?
Nia Bagley, Planning Commission.
Aye. Anyone else? Okay, my intention is to reserve a few minutes at the end for public comment, TBD how long people will get for public comment. We'll see how the conversation here goes, but I do intend to have an opportunity for a public comment at the end. Both virtual and in the room. Okay. Now I think we go to staff presentation.
Okay. All right, and thank you all for coming to the SPRC meeting number 1 for the Air and Space Force Association site, also known as 1501 Langston Boulevard, also known as the DFA site. Okay, so this, oh, you all are seeing my, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the agenda topics for this presentation. So what you're seeing on the screen is just for the staff presentation. We have another agenda That's slightly different for the meeting, and I'll put that up once the presentations are completed. But just quickly, my presentation is going to cover a lot of what you saw in the online engagement, which includes site location and background, land use, zoning, and policy guidance. And then we're going to look a little deeper at land use and density, site design, and building height, form, and architecture, and then look at process and next steps. So the AFA site is located within the boundaries of the North Highland Civic Association. It's bound by Langston Boulevard and Interstate 66 to the south, North Oak Street, and the Key Bridge Marriott site to the east, Palisades Park Townhomes Complex to the north and west, Park Georgetown to the west.
Then I'll pull the timer on you. I'm going a little
I know,
slow.
I don't want to.
No, you're okay. I'm not gonna pull the timer on you. You have my commitment. I never make that commitment.
Okay.
That
All
was
right.
fast even for me.
All right, 4-story office building on this site developed in 1984. The former home of the Air and Space Force Association. Here's the existing site. Custom Bike and Ped Trail runs along the site's southern frontage, parallel with Langston Boulevard. Parking and loading access is from North Oak Street. There's a conservation easement on the southwest corner of the site that contains a wooded area, and that is scheduled to remain upon redevelopment of the site. Quickly looking at land use and zoning, site's correct club designation is low office apartment hotel. You may notice on the map on the left, it's not what's shown, but staff has conducted extensive research on past county board actions for GLUP amendments and designations for the site and has found that other designations have been mapped in error over time from the construction of both the I-66 and the Palisades Park development. So the correct GLUP designation is low office apartment hotel. Site is zoned CO 1.5, which corresponds with the site's GLUP designation. The AFA site is located within the area 5 east of the Langston Boulevard area plan, which was adopted by the county board in December 2023. Area 5 east is envisioned to be the gateway to the Langston Boulevard corridor, and buildings along the Custis Trail are expected to create a welcoming environment. Development on the subject site should also step down gradually to the surrounding lower density residential communities. The applicant, Tycoon Properties, has submitted a site plan application to redevelop the site with an 8-story residential condo building with 88 units and a community service use on the ground floor. And a use permit for the community service use, or more specifically, the AFA Museum, has also been submitted. The applicant can provide more details as to the nature of that space in their presentation. Closer look at the development proposal, but I'm going to provide a summary. We can always come back to this if you have questions. Proposed density is 69 dwelling units per acre. Proposed residential parking ratio is 1.6 spaces per unit. As a reminder, parking will be discussed at the second SPRC meeting. Proposed building height is technically 8 stories, which we'll talk about in this discussion and also in this presentation. And the applicant is also proposing standard zoning ordinance modifications as well as improvements to the Custis Trail, as well as the removal of 1 lane of Langston Boulevard. So diving into one of the discussion topics for tonight, we'll look first at the proposed land use, zoning, and density. First, for land use, the proposed mixed-use building is consistent with the Langston Boulevard area plan's land use guidance for the site, as you can see on the mixed-use map on the left. A mix of uses is also supported by the site's zoning district and GLUP designation. For density, the proposed density of 69 units per acre is within the permitted density of the CO 1.5 zoning district and is also consistent with the site's GLUP designation of low office apartment hotel, both of which permit densities up to 72 units. Here on the left, we have the proposed density tabulations for the project. The main takeaway on this slide is that the applicant is not requesting any additional density for this project or bonus density. And on the right, you can see we have the proposed unit mix. You can note there's a significant number of larger units that's proposed in the proposed building, which we typically don't see in newer residential projects. Site design, the subject site contains an atypical dimensions and is constrained by its close proximity to both the Palisades Park townhomes to the north and west, as well as to the Custis Trail and Langston Boulevard to the south. As I mentioned, a conservation easement containing a wooded area is located on the southwest portion of the site. The applicant is proposing to retain the existing underground parking garage, so parking and loading access will remain from North Oak Street. The main entrance for the residential building is proposed from North Oak Street, and the museum entrance is proposed on the building's southwestern corner adjacent to the conservation easement and the Custis Trail. Also, walkway will then connect the pedestrians from the main entrance to the museum entrance. The applicant also proposes a motor court or portico share that is located on the North Oak Street frontage. While we do want to acknowledge this aspect of the project while discussing the site's design, we actually do want to save a deeper dive into this topic until we discuss transportation and its appropriateness of this design at the second SPRC meeting, so we can provide you additional transportation related guidance on this aspect of the project. You can see additional renderings of the site design. So on the left, we have the rendering of the motor court on North Oak Street, and on the right, we have the AFA museum entrance, and it's again adjacent to that conservation easement in the Custis Trail. Okay, for building height, the area plan envisions that the building height be tapered in this location to provide a suitable transition to the garden apartment buildings to the north and west. Plan recommends a maximum building height of 7 stories along the Langston Boulevard and North Oak Street frontages, which then steps down to 5 stories as it moves the adjacent townhomes. In staff's review of the applicant's plans, they appear to be showing occupiable space on their mechanical penthouse area shown in the elevation drawing on the right. Given that this level contains gross floor area associated with the residential use, this counts as an additional story, therefore making the overall building height 8 stories. However, the mechanical penthouse height is within the maximum limit we permit for mechanical penthouses. So if the applicant were to remove the GFA within the mechanical penthouse, the building's massing and height would likely remain the same. Just going to point that out for everyone. For building form, the applicant proposes a building with a unique form, which is largely due to site constraints such as topography and the site's atypical shape. Based on the area plan's guidance on massing, the building should be tapered with the tallest building height and massing concentrated in the southwest corner along Langston Boulevard and North Oak Street. Sorry, that's southeast corner. And then it should step down as it nears the townhomes to the north and west. As proposed, the building's massing does differ from the plan's guidance in several locations and on multiple planes. However, as these massing diagrams and sections demonstrate, it's possible that the proposed massing does still achieve the overall intent of the area plan to provide neighborhood transitions while also producing a building that provides visual interest and differentiation in massing. Thank you. 3 times the charm. The applicant proposes a building with a unique, this is a similar side. This section is just similar points made on the other side. It's just a different massing view. So we'll probably be looking at these in a much zoomed in lens during the discussion. Maybe that back up. For architecture, the area plan provides general guidance for building articulation as well as additional design guidance, which is outlined on this slide. Plan also includes guidance for fenestration and ground story conditions, both of which are summarized on the left. In assessing the proposed architecture, staff notes that the facade along Langston Boulevard doesn't step back above the 7th story as recommended. However, the proposal does provide recessed and projecting planes that help to create visual interest and architectural rhythm. So we look forward to hearing your thoughts. We also wanted to call out that the applicant is proposing extensive building overhangs resulting in the lobby areas and much of the Langston Boulevard facing plaza being within arcades. The area plan recommends that the building storefronts should be located at the back of clear sidewalks and shy zones and to avoid excessive arcades and colonnades. Point that out for you for the discussion. Slide shows renderings of the proposed building. When we look at the public review process schedule, we are at the first SPRC meeting. The second SPRC meeting date is currently tentative, although we do think it will be in the middle of May as of now. We will be updating you all via Gov delivery notices as well as the project website as to the exact date. But right now we are thinking mid-May. And that SPRC meeting will cover transportation, including parking and loading, streetscapes, as well as Custis trail conditions, environmental impacts, including RPA, and stormwater impacts, and then open space and landscaping, as well as sustainability. Next, the project will go on to advisory groups and commissions, which will likely be later this year. We held an online engagement event on February 19th through March 1st. We received a lot of comments, a total of 596 total comments from 92 participants. So thanks to those who did participate in that event. Just a very quick summary. The majority of comments we did receive were in association with area plan performance, comments on the building height, as well as Custis Trail improvements. And you can view a summary of those comments via the link in this presentation, also on the project webpage. And then you can view all of the comments in their entirety in the link above. That's also on the project webpage. So that concludes staff presentation.
Yeah. Okay. We will go to the applicant when you're ready.
All right, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Andrew Painter with Walsh Colucci, and hopefully this is gonna help be brought up on the screen. We had some connection issues earlier, so I'm borrowing Lauren's laptop. Joining us online is Elliot Young with Walsh Colucci, Taylor Burgess with Land Design, and Jeff Krebs there with FICA. It's good to see many of you all here tonight, especially members of the Planning Commission and members of the community too. Had some many discussions with some of you, and then thank you very much for those that attended the walkthrough. This will be a repeat for some of you all. What I want to do is just highlight just a couple things that Mr. Walentish had mentioned. This is a building that was constructed back in 1984. It was purpose-built for the Air Force Association at the time. looks every bit as a 1980s office building. There is a chamfered staircase down front, and then there's also the Doolittle Legacy Wall, which is honoring those members of the Air Force Association that contributed money for the AFA headquarters. Oh, is it not sharing the screen? Well, why it's not transitioning? Yeah, but that's issues. Let me try to share.
Sharing the full screen.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to show the full screen. We'll try this again. See if I can advance the slide. Down. I am on Riley.
You're like tonight.
That is me. Oh, what's going on with things tonight? Yeah, don't you know? All right, we're gonna try this one more time.
I have it up. Problem is I have to like fix the slides for them, so we'll give them another couple.
Okay.
Yeah, give me
Just
one
kinda
more
wanna play this
shot.
game.
No, you're
No,
fine. I was not rushing you.
Equal
Keep us
time.
motivated.
So it should be sharing now. I did. Then it shut down. Try.
Is it an invisible building?
It's an invisible building.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
I'll have no idea if I do or don't.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Would you like me to give it a shot?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've added some slides, but we'll try one more time. We're gonna let our architect do it. But I guess, there's several things just to sort of highlight here. One, again, it's a 1984 office building. There is an 8,000 square foot conservation area that is on the western side of the property that is under easement with the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust. We have a substantial 40-foot topographic drop. Let's see if that is. Between the northwestern portion of the site and the southeastern corner of the site. There we go. Let's see. Never trust a lawyer. Yeah. Let's see what we got.
This is them sharing.
All right. We're going to go down. Yeah, but it's not advancing.
It will, just sounds like.
No, it advanced.
All right.
All right.
So now I know that I need to just
lag.
relax. This next image, which will come up in about a minute, will you can see the 40-foot topographic drop, and then also the site has, as Ms. Walentish mentioned, 7 different unique property boundaries. We have a. It's not working. Chrissy, do you want to bring up your slide if you have it? And I apologize to everybody. It's just. We also have a small piece of the property that is a designated resource protection area, which is predominantly found on the northeastern corner of the site along North Oak Street, and it also covers a portion of the current drive aisle going into the property. It was subject to a site plan 361, which was approved back in 2002, and that is when the Air Force Association decided to, that's good, decided to do an addition onto the building. The Langston Boulevard area plan, Chrissy had mentioned, you can see the existing building. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, the building height and form map and a potential layout footprint for the building. There is the conservation area is mentioned in the Langston Boulevard area plan only by graphic depiction. There's no discussion about what it should be. The Custis Trail is seen as a linear greenway. And that should be upgraded as well. And then there's also a recommendation that there be an intersection study at North Oak Street and Langston Boulevard as well. And then, as Christy mentioned, there are design principles for tapering for the building. We can go to the next slide. And so here you can see the topographic drop. So 123 above, ASC in the northwestern corner of the site. It goes all the way up to 132 on the far northwestern corner of the site. And then it drops down to 84 feet down by Langston Boulevard. So again, about 40 feet in topographic drop in elevation. So we're trying to thread this needle, and the deviations that are mentioned in the staff report really come from applying those prescriptive Langston Boulevard area plan design principles to this unique site. Go to the next slide. We can see now. This just shows the, okay. So, oh no, that's okay. So when we take a look at the site, we started looking at the context of what's around us. We have an established single-family attached townhouse community, the Palisades Park community, immediately surrounding us to the north and to the west. And so there's some design sensitivities that really need to be accommodated, not just in terms of designing the building, but also there's parking issues in this neighborhood. There are sensitivities as far as just, residents being right up next to this property boundary. And so we need to really think about how this responds to it. And then from a visual perspective, we can see the Potomac River Gorge from the top of the building. We can see portions of Key Bridge and the Federal City Center as well. And after a lot of discussion internally, we can go to the next slide. We came up with these design drivers, which is to achieve compliance with the Langston Boulevard area plan recommendations as much as we can, provide high quality architecture at what we understand is a gateway location. When you come across, you enter the Commonwealth and you're heading westbound on Langston Boulevard, once you get past the Key Bridge Marriott site, this is there. It is highly visible. It deserves something that's unique and special. Increasing housing supply and introducing for sale units, which has not really been done in the metro rail corridors or in the Langston Boulevard area. Removing obsolete office space, and then using the site plan process as a way to improve the public realm and streetscape and safety and kind of change the typology of Langston Boulevard. We can go to the next slide. So we took all of that together and we came up with the plan that is in front of you. It is a 7-story office building, but it's technically 8 because we do have GFA within the mechanical penthouse on the 8th floor when you get off of the elevator. But 88 units, we are targeting for sale condominiums, which is a homeownership type, as I mentioned, has not really been built recently. About 2/3 or 75% of the whole number of units would be 2 and 3 bedroom units. We can go to the next slide. As far as the conservation area, we have been working with the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust. Again, they hold the easement. That easement came following the 2002 site plan amendment. There was a recommendation from the Planning Commission during the time that area should be placed under conservation easement. It was not placed. There was no condition of approval requiring it. It is something that the Air Force Association did on its own volition, following, following the zoning entitlement process. And ever since we've been working there. I will say, anecdotally speaking, when you walk out there, it is very steep. There are goat paths that people have used. There is sort of informal use of the property. But what that's done is it's led to a lot of root suppression and other types of things. And so our approach with this is to work with the Conservation Trust to remove invasive species, plant new native species and pollinators and supplemental plantings. And then along Langston Boulevard, incorporate some of the bench seating that you have elsewhere along the Custis Trail as you go up and down I-66. I personally came up with the concept of installing historic commemorations. The whole concept of the Custis Trail comes out of the negotiated settlement-ish from 1978 when it was agreed to push through I-66 to County. So I would like to do something, or we would like to do something to commemorate the history of the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust and its mission, as well as I-66 and the story behind that. And then have field located passive trails if possible. I will say that we have not gone out there and engineered exactly where those trails are located. It's something that we need to do with urban forestry staff and with the Conservation Trust, really once winter is over and we can start seeing where the invasives are on the property. We can go to the next slide. So this is an aerial overview. And if you go back to that Langston Boulevard design, it really shows a box. What we have tried to do in this case, however, is have a different kind of design approach. And there's really 2 wings of the building, and it has an interior courtyard in the middle. So we've hollowed out the center of it so that you don't have a wall right up against the western property boundary. And so just from an architectural perspective, our design is rooted in having high quality architecture that is responsive to the surrounding context. We have substantial vegetation on the western and northern property boundaries. We have that courtyard approach. At the corner, the Langston Boulevard area plan recommends a setback of about 45 feet. And that is extremely important because as we have learned and talked with neighbors, we understand that the Custis Trail, you have bicyclists that are coming down every day. There is a pedestrian actuated signal at North Oak Street, but they are flying down. And there's got to be something, there have been accidents there. It is not a safe condition for pedestrians, bicyclists, or vehicles. And right now, the chamfered staircase really acts when you have the sound barrier on the other side. It's a tunnel-like effect, and the visibility is not there. So we're pushing the building back. It'll be recessed at the ground level. And then we have, instead of setbacks, we have cantilevered, a totally different approach. cantilevering it over. And then as you look at the images, you can sort of see it curving with the curvature of Langston Boulevard as well. We are retaining the below grade garage cavernous space. So there's not going to be additional blasting or additional digging. But what we've been able to do is put a lot of the site amenities inside that space. They're not going to be units. There's going to be interior pools, gyms, that sort of thing, as well as the parking, as a three-level parking garage. But we are anchoring that into the hillside, which should reduce the massing and the experience as people live on North Pierce Court or 21st Street North as they experience the building. The mechanical systems. Right now, very noisy old mechanical systems at the northwestern corner of the building. We are proposing to push all of that and the height of the building, the massive height of the building, the massing of the building close to the intersection of Langston Boulevard as well. We can go to the next slide. We can go to the next slide here too. Just sort of go through this. Right along Langston Boulevard, and this was a comment that came out of the online engagement. It's a heavily used area. There are pedestrians. What we are doing is widening out Custis Trail. I'll talk about that in a second when we talk about narrowing Langston Boulevard. But we're introducing what we call the Langston Plaza right along. It's a pedestrian zone right along the building itself. It'll have bicyclist areas, fix-it stations, watering stations, but also just another way to go so that pedestrians can walk parallel to the trail. We can continue to go through. And then we have a series of transportation improvements in and around the site. We are combining the two northernmost vehicular entrances into a single entrance. We are replacing the North Oak Street sidewalk and narrowing North Oak Street in line with Langston Boulevard area, the area plan. We are seeking to remove one westbound lane of Langston Boulevard and recapture that space for a wider 12-foot wide Custis Trail, which accords with the Custis Trail needs assessment, and a series of other things as well. Bicycle rooms, series of things. We can go to the next slide. And this is what the narrowed Langston Boulevard area would look like. Again, a pretty healthy separation between Langston Boulevard and the trail. You can see the pedestrian side of the Langston Boulevard Plaza on the other side. And then something to mention too, and I'll just stand up here. We are seeking to remove the sound barrier only to the point where the new building and the sound barrier, the new building acts as noise mitigation so that residents that live in the Park Georgetown Apartments and in Palisades Park do not have a deleterious reduction in noise level. So it comes right to this point. If we could remove the whole thing, we would, but this will ultimately be a decision for VDOT in conjunction with the Federal Highway Administration. But we think it makes it provides a tremendous benefit from a urban planning perspective. We can continue. As I mentioned, there's a series of safety issues along Custis Trail. We already have the pedestrian signal. We're moving the building back and we're moving the sound wall. This is something that we came to the table with, and it's subject to negotiation. So welcome discussion about that in the next SPRC. But what can we do from a signage striping perspective, rumble strips to slow people down? I will say that there's a VDOT STARS study that is looking at Custis Trail. They are proposing rumble strips and additional signage, and then narrowing even further than what we've shown here, the crossing at North Oak Street. We can go to the next slide. This is sort of the just project summary that we talked about before, and we can keep going. And then these are images that were in Chrissy's presentation. You can see the view looking westbound on North Oak Street. This assumes removal of the sound wall. Next slide. This is the porte cochere that Chrissy had mentioned. And just one thing, the reason that we did this was North Oak Street is narrow. It's almost like the only entrance into the community. It's not technically, but it serves as a main entrance. And we wanted to get people off of North Oak Street for short-term pickups and drop-offs. We thought this was an elegant solution. We can go to the next slide. And this was a close-up at the corner that you can see Langston Boulevard, that you can see the parallel Langston Plaza approach for the pedestrian zone, and that will be fully ADA accessible. Next slide. And then this is looking from the westbound direction, looking east. The AFA Heritage Museum is a 1,266 square foot area that we are proposing. That is something that when Tycoon Properties bought the property from AFA, that was a promise that the owner made to AFA to preserve the legacy of the organization on this site. And so we can go to the next slide. And then this is looking down North Oak Street towards the intersection with Langston Boulevard. And you can see the building and the narrowing of the street in a wider pedestrian zone. So I'm going to pause here, and I appreciate Chrissy running the slide deck, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. So at this point, we will do a round of clarifying questions if anyone has those. This is one of my personal predilections. A clarifying question is not a substantive comment about the presentation. It is a question about, hey, did that say 6 or 7? Or such other similar things. I will reserve chair's right to determine something not a clarifying question, and I do occasionally do that. In which case, you get to address it during my commentary. But I see a hand over here, so you first, sir.
So, question, Andrew, how confident are you that VDOT is going to be willing to give up this thing?
So that might be a good question for Jeff Krebs with FICA. We included it in our MMTA that we submitted to VDOT. They had no comments or issues with it. And then Suzanne, you all had met with VDOT last week on this very topic.
Yes. Seems to be punting to. But Jeff is the expert on that. So.
Jeff, are you there?
And yes, and Andrew, I think you covered it well. I think, you know, our initial conversations with VDOT have been encouraging. I think certainly the county has stated that they are behind the efforts to both close the lane and try to reduce the sound walls impact. So though they are encouraging, it is VDOT, and we are, you know, slowly working our way through the process with them. They have the current plans. We have received comments. As you saw, there's the STAR study going on, which coincides nicely and recommends in parallel kind of the things that we're looking at as well. So we are encouraged, but know that it is, again, it is VDOT, and there will be it'll be a long conversation with them. So that's about all there is to say really at this point.
Yes.
So it's an attractive building, so don't take this the wrong way. Could you speak to the deviations from the Langston Boulevard area plan and the top floor GFA, and maybe this is for staff, like what it means, the verb that's often used is justified, but what that actually means.
I think that's for discussion on site design. I saw a hand. Oh, yes.
Can we clarify on that point? So between the two presentations, I've noticed 3 different building heights that have been presented this evening. So the PowerPoint that I downloaded that you presented had 88.
Yes.
Your slide had 100.4. And on slide 17 of this presentation, it has 90.0.
I can clarify my point of that. Sorry, are you finished?
Well, I just want to know, we need to come to a consensus to what the actual height is, because there are 3 different ones that were presented tonight. So
You're absolutely right. And I apologize for my part of that. I did have an presentation that I had posted to the website on Monday. The 88 feet is, so then when the applicant submitted the project, they were assuming this was a 7-story building. It wasn't until we had started reviewing it that we realized it wasn't instead an 8-story building. So that's 7 stories is the 88 feet. If you count the mechanical mezzanine, which is that 8-story, it's 100 feet, 100.5 feet, right?
yeah, 100 feet 5 inches.
Right. So the correct building height, as measured per our zoning ordinance standards, is 105 feet, which is taken from average site elevation. So apologies for the error there.
Good use of clarifying the question.
Yeah.
I'm still unclear. What is it supposed to be? What's the max on this site?
Per number of stories, per guidance in the area plan, it's 7 stories maximum building height, and then by height in feet, it's 75 to 90 height. It's 90 feet. You're at 100.
Is that extra 10 feet because of the penthouse space that we want to put a restroom in?
Right.
So the height is going to be 100 feet anyway. It's just that penthouse doesn't typically count towards that, but in this case it is because we want to put a restroom in the penthouse. So it won't change the height if we take the restroom out. The height will still be 100.5.
I saw Commissioner Peterson. Or Commissioner Peterson, do you know?
Yeah, I think my question was answered.
Okay, ma'am.
Are there going to be any affordable units?
We are not seeking bonus density. There will be no affordable units in the building. We have our base density contribution, so there will be an affordable housing contribution as a part of the project.
Okay, and another question, is it good, the apartments, are they gonna be ADA accessible?
There is a, well, yeah, no, so these are all condominiums, and I think building code requires a minimum of 2% of the total number of units to be type A units, if I'm not mistaken.
Any other clarifying questions?
I heard reference to an intersection study. Is that part of this site plan, or is that just a recommendation that the county should coordinate a site, an intersection study with this construction?
Adrian, you want to?
Yeah, that's part of the site plan. The applicant has submitted that study with their. We will have more to discuss about that.
Second, SPRC, because that will be covered in transportation. Any other clarifying questions? Going once, twice, 3 times. Great, land use and density, first topic. Anyone? Yes, sir.
So,
Go
good.
No, I called on him, then I'll call on you.
So on this, I think on the staff slide, it said that the density was 69, right?
Per acre.
Units
Per
per
acre,
acre.
okay. And the max is 72, if I'm not mistaken. So I just want to know, like, what was the reasoning that it's not 72? Like, how did you guys get to that?
I'm going to turn that over to the applicant to answer. We're just assessing the
Okay,
proposal.
great.
Yeah, so 72 units an acre is the recommendation under the low office apartment hotel, under the GLUP designation. And then 72 units an acre under the CO 1.5 zoning district is also the base residential density. So, and it's calculated units per acre. When we were looking at this, we looked at a number of different products. I think we looked at one with close to 200 units. We looked at, and that would, be a bigger box and kind of a wrap kind of product, but it didn't really fit in that well. And then we ultimately settled on a for sale housing product, but having larger units. And so where it ended up was 88 units, which you divide by the area, and it becomes 69 units. We also had heard, we filed a conceptual site plan almost 2 years ago, the initial one, and we had under a prior version of this, we had discussions as well. And we heard concerns about density in the immediate vicinity and the tightness of the site. And so we didn't really want to exceed the base density on the property, but also just for this product type and to deliver the type of shape of the building that we thought would respond to the context that's around us. We thought that this was the appropriate density to land at.
May I ask a non-clarifying question?
Oh, yes,
That was my question.
that was your question. So yes, it's up to you. Yep.
Okay. So I think the presentation acknowledges that there are deviations, and they're largely around setbacks and step backs. Already gestured at the top floor GFA. Could we, this is for staff and also for the applicant, can we talk a little bit about what justifying this context means?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. So staff doesn't have any formal stances yet on any aspects of the project. It is still relatively early in the review. We also like to hear what happens what transpires at the end. Our final determination on certain things. Right now, we can say that aspects of their proposal, they do differ from what is in the area plan. We see that a lot on projects. Sometimes we support them, sometimes we don't. It all depends on the overall conformance of the project with aspects of the plan. So we have to view it on a very minute level and very specific and technical level with plan guidance. And then we're also viewing it step back at a very general level as to whether the project generally conforms with plan guidance. So we're not really justifying anything at this point. That typically comes when we're writing a staff report, and we're actually recommending a supported denial to the county manager, to the county board. So we don't have any justifications yet because we don't have any formal stances. But we are still analyzing both on building height and on the step backs and setbacks, whether they're appropriate for this site.
Does the applicant have anything they need to add?
No, I mean, we can walk through deviations whenever it's appropriate.
Michelle, tell me.
My looking at it, I don't have a concern about it because I've been working with the Plan Langston Boulevard for quite a number of years. It is guidance. It's not it doesn't handcuff the county or the developers or the property owners. I think generally this is within the spirit of what we were looking for in Plan Langston Boulevard. The setbacks do respect the neighborhood that's surrounding it on two sides. They don't look like specifically what was in the plan, but the plan never intended that to be the form of what the building would look like. Again, its guidance, it shows how step backs should be working. And I think this is sufficiently close to that it works. And after having walked the site, I think that it makes sense the way they're doing this here and seeing the distance between the existing houses and this project. So I don't have any heartburn with what appear to be some of the deviations on the setbacks. That's my rationale on it.
Respectfully, though, I have to disagree a bit because then I start to question, then everything really is a suggestion, right? When we design in residential, they're very strict about you have to be a certain distance from the property line. And so one of the surprises I have is when we review projects is how almost every project we review breaks those setbacks. And those setbacks are there for a reason, and designers usually follow them to the T, not as a suggestion, but because it's what we use as a guideline. So it does concern me a bit that seems to be the trend, and it affects everything, things that we're probably not going to talk about today, like parking and density. So I could understand the community's concern where that's a trend, if that makes sense.
Sure,
I just wanted to get staff confirmation that the comment that was made earlier, that the building will be this height and is approved to be this height, and it's just because of that bathroom that it's being counted as the 8th story, which is the deviation.
She's correct. Her comment is saying that the massing will remain the same. So their mechanical penthouse is 23 feet. It's technically 2 levels. So they have a mechanical mezzanine and then a standard mechanical penthouse. And so taken together, it's 23 feet. They are permitted that 23 feet. So even if they were to take out the bathrooms and they didn't have any GFA that would count on that level, the building would still read the same. So the massing would be the same. So
And then it would not be considered a deviation in that case.
correct. But you'd still be looking at the same thing.
Okay. And then I also had a
It would
question.
not be invisible.
Thank you. The question about the step back for the building. It's supposed to step back. I think it was at the 4th story, and it is instead stepping back at the 5th story, which I tend to agree. Like, it's a new plan. I generally err on like this site in particular was like a big issue when we were approving the Langston Boulevard, and I think we worked some things kind of at the last minute. So I tend to say like let's err on the side of the plan, though I would question like the trees that are just to the north of the building. Like, how tall are they from the viewpoint of the residents? Like, would they even notice the difference between a 4th floor step back versus a 5th floor step back? Are those trees all going to get cut down for this building? And then it would actually be a big visual difference. Or if the trees are there and they're going to block the view, and so there's not actually a difference, does it need to be mitigated as much for 4th floor versus 5th floor?
Well, the building at that location is set into the hill as much as possible. And then I may ask the applicant to provide me more information about the tree plantings.
Yeah, so because we're reusing the garage area, the trees that are there, the root zones have been built into the garage. So we're not going any further into the root zones than what already exists because we're reusing the garage space. So that's just from a tree perspective. I will say, and it's tough to see without a graphic, so maybe we can pull one up, but it depends on if we want to get to this now. It sounds like we do, but everything.
We've merged topics at this point.
Oh,
We're doing site design too. We're actually doing building height and form and architecture. We're gonna do everything at once.
Yeah.
Sorry, giving up on the agenda. We got my clarifying question.
Yeah. And I think all these comments are right. We've got 5 stories on the north and western facades, and then we have rising to 7 stories. And if you just take a building, mass, it's like a box that just goes right up to the property boundary. What we try to do, as I mentioned, is we have this sort of 2-wing thing, and we've cut out the interior of the courtyard. In order to have a functional building, we do have to have a deviation. on the northern property boundary. Before we filed the application, we worked with staff to make sure that we fully understood on an apples to apples comparison what the Langston Boulevard area plan would, what that recommendation would look like and what we're doing. And when you have that side by side comparison, I think it's easier to see that this is, it's a justifiable deviation. On the northern property boundary, it's an additional floor than what's there now, but it will read, it's only about 4 feet higher than what the current building is, how that actually reads today. And then there is one stick of townhomes that, you know, the homes are about 80 feet away, building to building. And there's one stick of townhomes that's closer. And so for that stick of townhomes, that is when they look out their window, it will be at the 4-story area.
Can I
Okay.
point?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And actually, JP, you may want to assist.
Right, so this is the closest point. So they kept it at 4 stories here. And then this is the 5-story where it's the deviation. But this is also a big open courtyard that belongs to Palisades Park. So they don't have townhomes until way up there.
Well,
So
then
it's a
trees, right?
Right, and it's
How
it's
tall are these trees?
tall.
They're 50 feet full.
Yeah.
So
I think
they-
that one of
they
the
are-
first sort of
They don't
thing-
need
Then
very
that
the story
blocks the
that's there now, so they would block it, but it's, and the plan is to maintain those trees. As we're discussing this, how to build the project, we're keeping that wall, and it will be supported from the inside instead of doing. That wall was really important to save those trees.
Can I just add a clarifying amendment to that? So this area here for Palisades Park, this is a graduated stormwater retention area that manages the water flow for probably 40% of the community. So 40%, so that water flow needs to come down to the stormwater area here. And there's graduated landscaping and other flora that manage that water so that we capture that. So that has to be preserved. Because otherwise it would disrupt that water flow and cause other flooding issues on the street. And
So
that-
having the extra story there where it wasn't right on top of the townhouses was a better place to put it than if we put it at the other side where you can see the townhouses are right up against. And so instead of having it right there, we're adding a story there. So we're just kind of,
So, I mean, so all the deviations are not, like,
Can we point to all of
yes,
them?
I'm going to.
Thank you.
So the first deviation that we're seeking is, as Andrew mentioned, is the 1 story above the 4 recommended at the property line. So the way that the Langston Boulevard plan says it, it's 10 feet from the property line, you set back, you go 4 stories, and then above the 4th story, you set back 50 feet to the next. So on this northern property line, we're seeking the variance of adding 1 additional story to that 4-story. So we have the 80 feet, that's the separation to the north townhomes. And then, as Andrew mentioned, we're only gonna be 4 feet taller than what's existing already there. The other deviation then is on the west property line. So in the Langston Boulevard plan, it also suggests to be 10 feet offset from the property. Here, we're actually setting back 27 feet 5 inches, so greater than what's suggested, correct? And the Langston Boulevard plan is also allows for massing to be along this whole western property. What we're actually doing is not providing that massing. We're actually providing a really nice and open space, which actually separates us further from the townhomes to the west and into this open space courtyard with a lot more vegetation. Another variance or deviation that we have on the west property line are the setbacks. So we are following the 4 stories on this part of the building. So the deviation is actually the distance of the setbacks that are required. So like I mentioned earlier, so you have 10 feet above the 4th story, it's 50 feet, and then 20 feet as follows. So here we're actually deviating from the distance of the setback, but in the spirit of the setbacks, we're actually are providing them and focusing all of the massing towards the intersection of North Oak Street and Langston Boulevard. So, you know, I understand that these setbacks are kind of like, you know, recommended, but we're also improving on some of them while trying to adjust to accommodate some of that, massing away from the townhomes and pushing everything towards Langston Boulevard.
Okay, I saw a question over here. Does that address the current open question?
Yeah, it's to the same topic. So
Okay.
on the far southern westerly edge, doesn't the setback call for additional graduation
Or here.
right there?
So here we're allowed 10 feet up from the property line and then 4 stories from there, which we're meeting right here. So then for levels 5, 6, and 7, we're actually not stepping back on this, the prescribed 10 to 20 setback.
Can we point out also that that spot right there is depressed? It is not like, when they say 4 stories, the North Pierce Court is way up here and the building is way down here. So the 4 stories is kind of like right at the North Pierce Court. So it's
Sort of,
feels like it's gonna be right here and it's actually,
But there are calculations that you would take with the average grade.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different average grades that we have calculated, and we are responding to each one. So the reason we're deviating from this one is because this average grade is a lot lower than this one up here, right? So it's so the way that it all works, we're respecting each property line essentially, because each one has its own average grade elevation, and then the building height is then measured from the average site elevation. So it's a lot of different elevations and averages that we have worked through to really come up with a solution that I think harmonizes with the topography challenges that are on the site.
but can you clarify what the plan says?
Okay.
Above a 4-story podium, every 10 feet up, it should be how many? Yeah.
So it's not a podium, but the 4 stories, yes. So above the 4 stories, if you go up 10 feet, you set back 20 feet, go up another 10 feet, set back 20 feet, go up another 10 feet, set back 20 feet, and basically until you run out of space. But as recommended here, right, so there's massing all along this westbound property, and which we're actually not providing any of this here. We're actually opening it up to the townhomes to the west. We are complying with the 4-story here on the west, most part of the leg, what I call it. And then what we're deviating is the 5, 6, and 7 setback requirement which is the 10 to 20 ratio.
So, apologies, I was out of town for the walking tour, which I know was this past Friday. Hopefully most of the folks in this room were able to do the walking tour. I have previously walked the site. It is a very complicated topographical situation. So I think that, this conversation is reflective of that. I do hope that, folks were able to do the walking tour, experience that. I would imagine you all did, because you gotta walk like this. But in any case, certainly there are many different sort of height averages and landscaping concerns here to the topography of that.
I just had a brief comment, second and thirding, I guess if policy is but a suggestion, I just find that I'm all for flexibility. But if you violate a precedent, it is a slippery slope. So just the policy itself could be flexible, but if it's a mere suggestion, it does kind of invite, it just establishes a precedent that could be violated in the future.
Yes.
I'm also wondering, zoning, I think that's going to be a conversation there, but I'm just wondering why then, I understand what you're saying, that the volume essentially has been shifted from one side and put on the other side. But it does seem a little stiff on the side where you shifted it, like the courtyard. I'm wondering why it's so rectangular and then everything else goes into this fluid thing that is actually encroaching on the street. Why isn't it encroaching back on, like instead of encroaching on the street, the shifting, kind of like BRK, done some BRK stuff there. Why is that shifting onto the street so much and not back towards where you would have the allowance.
Allowance.
In terms of the shape of it, is just, everything is very, for the lack of orientation, I know that this is south, like bottom heavy, and then top light because you got the townhouses there, but I'm just wondering why you've shifted so much towards the street where it feels even.
Yeah, I think you
bigger.
hit it, you know, that's exactly what we did. And it's
Yeah, I
because it's because we want to step down to the neighborhood, be at similar scale.
Right.
Be very respectful. As you saw when the renderings looking down North Oak, right? You can see the building is stepping away from the neighborhood. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, be very respectful of the scale.
I don't have a formal problem with it. I'm just wondering why.
So that's exactly why. That's
Because I feel like you could then ease back into the courtyard and like not have the area that is actually non-conforming be so non-conforming. I wonder if that's gonna help you. Also, I was wondering, we are so close to the site that we were discussing yesterday.
Yeah.
So isn't that going to be monumentally bigger?
Yes.
300.
And so I'm I'm a little lost about the shift in height going from basically next door to here. Why is that?
There's like a resource protection area in between the two. I don't know how big it is.
Well,
But yeah, it is, it's gonna
It's a
be,
big gorge between the two.
yeah.
It just seems like an urban deviation that is weird.
That part isn't
For lack of
included
better
in the
word.
Langston Boulevard area.
That's correct.
And our building is, so
But you're
we
absolutely
have
right.
different rules we have to abide by than the Marriott site does, so.
And that line was drawn
Right there.
right there.
Oak
Okay.
Street.
Substantial step down.
Okay.
And I think as it was mentioned earlier, like during the Langston Boulevard area plan, this site was heavily debated as far as what those heights should
Yeah,
be.
I'm coming to it right now. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can sense the struggle. I'm just, because I see it also how it's shifting, but it's rigid on one side and then very fluid on the other side. If there's something there that in the courtyard, which you've decided to lighten one side, if you've made then the other side too heavy, maybe there's something to think about there in terms of the massing that seems to be stopping a lot of people.
It has to do with the structural configuration of the building also. I mean, we have to respect it because it's kind of hard with the structure, with this kind of, I know what you're saying, to stack it away from the courtyard.
Well, either way, you've done a structural diagram that's shifting. So it doesn't matter whether you shift it one way or another way. Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what we figured out is the structure works better the way we have it done. And in terms of the swaying towards Langston Boulevard, it's just really iconic moment that we're trying to create as you enter Langston.
I get it.
It's doing that, and
I get it, but the parts that are not conforming, you might want to look at that again. That's what I'm saying. And then I have another comment, but I'll wait.
Okay. Yep.
Could the applicant speak to what you would do if you lose the top floor GFA? What architectural changes you might or might not make?
So the last deviation that we are seeking is GFA on the penthouse level. So pursuant to the Langston Boulevard plan, it does recommend for outdoor amenity use. So we are proposing an outdoor pool on the penthouse level. So we actually studied and evaluated the outdoor pool locations. So if we can go to a floor plan, a roof plan, please.
Could you go to the rendered site plan?
Yeah, render site plan.
Or actually, this is good. This is good.
No, it's not.
No, he needs to see the whole building.
Do you have it in your presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this will be helpful. After.
Anyone else?
It's slide 14 in their presentation.
But to tee them up, again, you have maximum building height, which is a recommendation of 7 stories, and then anything that is on the rooftop cannot be enclosed habitable space that is not exclusively used for mechanical penthouse purposes. If it is, or if it's wishy-washy, then that is not used for mechanical penthouse purposes, and that enclosed space then is technically counted as gross floor area.
In this case, the enclosed floor space is a bathroom
Yes.
With-
and an elevator
Don't want
vestibule.
bathroom in the open. Right, got that.
Generally speaking.
And we have to have a lifeguard.
Yeah.
For a pool, you have to have a lifeguard in Arlington County, so we would need to have a lifeguard. The lifeguard would need to be able to use the bathroom. So we would need to provide a bathroom right there for him.
And I think, the point that Ms. Wallace was making is that within the 23-foot tall mechanical penthouse, which is technically excluded from the calculation of building height, we have enclosed habitable space within that mechanical penthouse. So if you were to get rid of that enclosed mechanical space or the closed habitable space, which now counts as GFA and technically an 8th floor, it would not do anything to change the massing that is created by virtue of the 23-foot mechanical penthouse. It's all subsumed within that wall.
We would be talking about a building that is 90 feet or something, even though it would visually read as 100 feet.
That's correct. So it would not make a material difference at all if you were to lose that
There,
space.
there are no design changes. The pool doesn't move.
Correct.
Nothing changes.
That's right.
You just wouldn't have a bathroom.
That's correct.
Yes.
And so the mechanical is only on one side of the building, so the other tower, the shorter side of the building, will not have any mechanical. Everything is gonna be run from this mechanical
Right,
area.
yeah, so that's what I was referring to. We were evaluating the pool location. And so the other pool location would be on top of the 5th floor, which is closer to the residents. So we don't want that to be an issue for the neighborhoods. We actually are putting it on the penthouse. If we put it here, we can build a pool house with bathrooms, a bar, and all that kind of stuff. But we're not doing that. All we're doing is asking for bathrooms for the penthouse pool up here.
So what would the roof be on that side?
So that's an outdoor terrace. So this is on this part will be heavily vegetated, green roof with the meet a lot of stormwater requirements, but it's an outdoor terrace. Part of it will be an outdoor terrace for the building and private terrace for 2 units.
And what is the implication of this design for stormwater? Where are you pushing the stormwater to?
We're
that-
working on that actually.
You're working on it, you
Yeah,
know.
process of working on
That'll be
it.
the next.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
sorry.
Jeff, do you have a quick answer to stormwater at all? I know that you heard the question at all.
Yeah.
Jeff Krebs? Online?
Yep, just trying to get on. Yep. So as you can imagine, as all of these projects are, they tend to take the form of 3 or 4 different strategies. So there is true green roof, right? There will be stormwater planters at the base of the building to take roof water that's not part of the green roof, and it directs it down to the stormwater planters, which have a nice fluffy bioretention media, which filters the water and does what it needs to do. There also may be the potential for a small vault in the garage. We always reserve that as a potential tool to help reduce both the quantity and the quality of the water at the runoff. So basically everything that falls on this site is being contained on this site. It doesn't go anywhere else. It goes basically through this site in one form or another, then out into the stormwater system, if that makes sense. So there's nothing going anywhere else. It's all going within our contained system, and it's filtered, reduced in volume, and to meet all those requirements from the county.
And Jeff, your tie-in is on Oak or it's gonna be on Langston?
No, I think the tie-in at this point is on Oak. But that is, subject to, it's very preliminary at this point, but that is our current proposed connection.
Okay.
Commissioner Peterson.
So I wanted to say a few things that I really like about the project, which is condos. We often are just seeing rental residential, which is great for folks who want to rent, but it's also really nice to see properties that people can buy. So I'm very excited about that. I'm really excited about family size units. A lot of times what we see are like the studios, the 1-bedrooms. I like to have places for children in Arlington as well. So this gives people the ability to live in a multifamily building with their kids. So I love that. And you are reusing the parking garage. So we're going to see benefits from reducing embodied carbon. I really like that. And the fact that by reusing the parking garage, you aren't going to be tearing down trees. If that's true, that's wonderful. I did have some questions about the architecture. I actually do really like the design that you're proposing. but I also don't see how it complements the existing neighborhood, because the existing neighborhood is townhouses, mostly brick. And this is like a beautiful glass building, which, you know, separately look really nice, but like next to each other. Talk me through, like, from a artistic perspective, like how do those work together? Is there some intentional foil that's happening here, or are you just like, people like glass these days, so we're doing glass?
No, that's a great question. So for rendering, please. So intentionally, we actually, you know, this concept of, you know, we're kind of coming out of this hill, and so the first so it's basically broken into 3 massings, and the bottom mass, which is at the pedestrian scale, all that material is actually we're going to use a stone. So something that, you know, has a continuity to brick, right? So instead of using brick, we're actually going to use natural stone. So that way we can bring that texture. So,
White.
all this whole base, this whole white, it's all going to be natural stone, you know, with glass. So we're actually very intentional about how we experience the pedestrian level, because we want it to feel very warm and friendly, and, you know, also through texture. So having that stone will be a continuity of that brick. Just imagine it a little bit differently, and then also having, you know, large openings to make the Custis Trail feel a lot more safe. So now we actually have eyes on the trail as we're, you know, widening up with, and then the removal of the stone wall too. But the whole base of the building is really trying to break down the scale to be more pedestrian friendly for look, feel, and touch.
Okay, and is there, I'm just thinking about the people using the trail, like with glass reflecting the sun, is there gonna be like a lot of glare, or like are you thinking about bird-friendly glass? I know that's kind of a sustainability conversation for the next week, but just since there is so much glass here, and then also with glass, usually there's like the environmental impact of it's harder to heat and cool, so.
Yeah, so actually, you know, our landscape team has actually done a great job of how we're gonna put a lot of trees and plantings along the trail to make it feel really nice and natural compared to what it is today. It's just, you know, 2 brick, you know, stone wall, and then another, you know, brick wall. So it's actually going to be very heavily vegetated. So when you're at that pedestrian scale, that is going to create a buffer to the building, to the trail. So the experience will be, you know, as natural as possible.
So I do want to highlight that landscaping is covered at the second meeting, so I don't want to go too far down that path. I know it's hard because when you're talking about a building, we do experience all of the aspects of the building at once. Yeah. So there's a lot of overbleed, but we do create an agenda for a reason.
Well, yeah, and I'm more wondering about the use of glass in the architecture versus other.
I understand. I was responding more to sort of as we get into sort of a planting, sort of add to that. It's good information, but we do want to cover it for next time. I'm going to take, were you finished, Commissioner Peterson? I'm going to take chair's privilege for a moment and align myself with Commissioner Peterson's comments. I too like the building and the design. I do think it might be helpful for, and apologies if I didn't notice this in the slides, for next time, if there could be kind of a rendering that sort of maybe shows a little bit more of the interplay of sort of the existing townhomes with the pretty shiny glass building. I think that might be a useful visual. That was hard to say. For folks to kind of get more of that scale and understanding of sort of what the site will look like in the constraints of what is, you know, existing currently. We can do that in the context of showing the landscaping too, if we need to align it to something. What was the first thing that you said? Oh, condos. Yes, I am also excited that this is going to be a condo property. We don't see enough of those in Arlington. So I think that's something that I do want to recognize. And I'm very appreciative that these are larger units, you know, which, you know, is beneficial in the condo setting. But I think also just, you know, family size units is something that we need more housing options in Arlington, and we need more housing options of a variety of types, not just more McMansions, whatever. Okay, Commissioner Natali.
Yeah, I too want to associate myself with both Commissioner Peterson's comments and Commissioner Steinberger's comments. I do like the architecture on this, and I have a clarifying question on it. There's 2 overhangs on the Langston Boulevard elevation. Am I correct that those are still within the property line of the building? So they are not impinging on any public spaces? Okay, that's important. I actually like the overhangs. We've had more of them in Arlington. walking around, I've been noticing we have more and more of them. And like this one just a block away at the Oracle building. And I think it's very effective. And that one actually, I think maybe go a little bit in the public realm, but I think it works well where we've had them being built here. So I'm not at all afraid of them. I think some people look at them and they recoil right away, but I think these are very effective and they give more space for people. So who live there. So I think it's a win-win all around. I feel better about the architecture now that you've defined that at the bottom, it's going to be more biophilic by having the stone there. That's very good, important. You know, I want to make sure that gets kept in this design. So yeah, I'm like I said, I want to associate myself with those comments. I think it's a very good architecture. It's better than what we've been seeing for a while now too. And I take it this is going to be a concrete building. This is not going to be, so it's all, that's unusual also. We've been seeing a lot of stick on concrete. So all around, this is different than what we have been seeing lately, and I'd like to see more of these type of buildings get built. Thank you.
Yes.
As long as we're in architecture, I like the architecture solution for the modern building and use of elements. Comments though. As Jim said, I like the overhangs. However, on the renderings, it looks like you've got 2 rows of trees, and I'm not sure whether the overhangs cover that interior row of trees or not. If so, it can be difficult to maintain the trees under those conditions.
Understood.
When we get to landscaping, maybe you can clear.
Yeah, definitely. So that part of the property is south facing, so it will actually receive daylight during all, morning, noon, and evening.
It's good.
Yeah.
So I think our urban forestry staff had a similar comment as well. So we can discuss that more at the next meeting.
Okay.
The other comment is I really like the improvements you're suggesting for the trail, the Custis Trail. However, to some extent, I think the spacing depends on getting the additional coverage from the closure of the lane on Langston Boulevard. And that being so, the museum entrance gives me a little bit of pause. If you get the additional spacing, I think you've got plenty of room for the entrance there. But if you don't, if VDOT is obstinate, then you've got the museum entrance opening up onto what is a fairly narrow path. And I'm not sure what you would do as a contingency. Any thoughts?
So we are actually setting back so right now the existing building sits right at the edge of the path. So we actually are setting back from that path. So we would still have some area for relief in front of the museum and for the outdoor vegetation terrace there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just concerned about pedestrians actually wanting to go into the museum on what is a pretty narrow portion of the path.
So
We can look at that too.
Okay.
yeah, I'm taking chair's privilege again, and then I'll do more people. I guess I have a question, like, what is the plan? And I thought this was gonna come up in the second SPRC, but I now don't think it necessarily will. It kind of doesn't fit in either SPRC. The museum itself, I guess I would have thought that would be a community benefit, but since you're not seeking community benefits, it's not that. So I'm just gonna raise it now. What is the plan in terms of access to the public, hours, maintenance?
It'll be, so we don't yet know what the hours will be.
Okay.
Like the Arlington Historical Society, for example, is not open 24/7.
Right.
But this will be owned by the ownership, it'll be separate and apart from the condominium, so it's condominiumized out. And it will be staffed, again, it will be open depending on what the desire is and what the interest is. And then we also have made a commitment to have it be used by nonprofit and civic organizations as well.
So it'll have community space.
It'll be a meeting space, it'll have meeting space, then it'll have exhibits from the AFA and Air Force related exhibits.
North could use it as their,
Presumably, yes.
their civic association meetings.
Yep.
I recognize that it's too soon to sort of know in terms of like, again, I don't expect to be staffed, 7 days a week, 9 to 5, but I think it would be helpful to have some understanding of what the initial expectation to try. Is it open one day, something as like a starting point? So there's some level of expectation, just, you know, a site plan condition or something so that there's some standard that we're starting from. And it's not just sort of like, we'll figure it out. That seems to me a little wishy-washy at this point. If this is meant to be, and I know it's not a community benefit, but if we're caring enough to create this on the site and there's a commitment to the AFA that this will be done, I think it would be appreciated that we have an understanding of a little more of what that commitment is.
Initially, it would probably be open more frequently. And then the plan is to have it be by reservation. So sort of like you have to call and get tickets if you want to go to any museum anymore. People that would call ahead. And so if we had people that wanted to go, then we would staff it and have someone meet them there. But I don't think the intention is to have someone sitting there all the time. It's a small space. It's not going to get that much activity. I think it will initially, it'll be exciting and new, and then it'll start to drop off attention wise, but it'll still be space that the community can use and we can have someone.
That's fine if there's a meaningful availability, like if calling ahead to get tickets, there's a meaningful way to do that. And it's not just like, they're only available on.
You know, it's not too much different. You know, first of all, there's no requirement that this museum space be used as a museum. We had to add in the use permit for the museum because that's how zoning classified it. But otherwise, it would just be residential tenant amenity space. But it happens to be open to the public as well. So if this museum did not exist, and I do hesitate to make a commitment in the conditions, because if it didn't exist, then it would just be, you know, a gym or, you know, some other lobby amenity for the rest of the stuff, you know.
A couple things to add here. Okay, so first is that they are applying for a use permit, so that will run concurrently with the site plan. So I'm not sure whether the planning commission will actually vote on the use permit, but the use permit will control hours of operation and the use types and things like that. So it might not be baked into the site plan, but it will have a separate use permit for the museum use. And then also, Andrew, just to push back a little bit on that last point about amenity space, the area plan did envision a convenience store on the ground floor of this building. So we did want to see some sort of activation there. There was no retail equivalent requirement on this site, but it did envision in the opening paragraph of Area 5 East, some sort of convenience store in this location. So that's where we really wanted to see that there for the site.
We can take this comment back and try to put some parameters.
Yeah, I want some understanding. I think we've had other amenities, community whatevers that have come up at different sites. I'm thinking of the view of the tower, and like, and all of a sudden you could only get there like, I don't know, like every third Monday when the moon was in exposition. It got ridiculous. So I would like to avoid getting to a point where that sort of I'm very blunt. I would like to avoid getting to a point where that's sort of what's happening here. I don't think we're at that point, but I think that it is appropriate to have the discussion and lay out. If I don't set what my expectation is for how we're not going to get to that point, then bad on me later on if that is what happens. Felt like I saw a hand over here. Oh God, no, we'll just go down the road. Sorry, you first, sir.
So second that comment, very, very helpful. Can we talk about construction approach, or is that the second?
Yeah.
Like other in the second meeting.
It's like other in the second meeting, so we'll do that at the second meeting. Sorry, I've been overruled. Okay.
Oh, no, it's up to you.
No, that's fine. We'll do it second meeting. That's fine. Was that your question? Then we'll run down the road. Yes.
Can we talk about affordable housing? That part.
Affordable housing, or is that other for next time?
You don't have, there's no affordable housing.
Yeah, I just want to know.
Give us your thoughts on affordable housing not existing here.
It's more of a clarifying question, because I have a feeling that all the projects here are not gonna have affordable housing on this side.
That's part of the invisible.
Visible housing.
So I'm wondering if it were to have affordable housing, how much percentage or whatever would it have to have, just so I know how much we're losing.
We don't have those calculations done yet. As Andrew mentioned, they will need to provide the base AHIP contribution. And they choose whether those are in on-site units or whether it's a monetary contribution. It's the applicant's choice. So they will decide that, and that'll be worked out kind of later on once we.
What's the percentage usually?
It's not really a percentage. It's based on a lot of different factors, and I just don't have that number now. Not even a ballpark. I'm sorry. I don't know if you all do, but I haven't.
No, we don't. Because we're not exceeding the base density. We're not having to earn bonus density, and that's usually where you get the contributions for on-site affordable or a cash contribution. In order to do the base density, there are base density calculations, utility fund, public art. There's an affordable housing contribution that's formulaic, and if we were to provide cash for that, it's based on a formula based on floor area ratio. But as Ms. Wallinger said, you could also do on-site affordable, which you know, as an option as well.
So the setbacks are being met and that's higher than it's supposed to be, but it's not breaking the base density. And that means that site wasn't designed to have affordable housing to begin with. Right? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused because if it's not.
I'm not sure that I'm getting the 1 equals 2 from that.
Well, because it's not smaller than it's supposed to be. So I'm not understanding why it's not breaking. It's okay, I can ask it later.
If there were more unit, because it's a units per acre calculation. So if we were proposing more
One of the
units.
reasons you made it bigger so that there would be lower units, I'm assuming.
Well, I think it's
Well-
also because they went condo. And the market for condos may be different. I will come back to you, but we are running down this entire.
Sorry,
row first.
I just.
No, I'm not cutting you off. I was just saying, you don't have to raise your hand that entire time because we're going to finish that row. Yeah, it's a unit-based calculation and the number of units is kept lower.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But not, I just want to make it clear, not purposely to avoid having to earn density. It's just from a market perspective, this is where the number came out.
This is where, yeah. And again, we see fewer condo-based buildings, so this conversation may come up less given the considerations going into a condo-based building.
Well, you would
Maybe
actually
different.
want to have people that can afford to buy a condo in this area. But it's okay. I just wanted to know more about that for this site.
Did you? Yes, we're just gonna go down the row.
Okay. So the museum seems to be located next to a bike storage in the plan. So I'm wondering why the bike storage is on the street rather than the museum. Or there's a sculptural aspect to being in that little shape, right, the wedge. But then I'm not sure that I need to see the bikes on the sidewalk. Maybe the bikes are beautiful.
So, yeah, so for programming, you know, we thought that having the museum facing the conservation area would be a beautiful setting, right? And then, so the bike storage is actually on the Custis Trail, which is a bike, you know, lane, right? So this is gonna be an elevated bike room. You know, it's not gonna be the ones that you see in the parking garage, like down below 3 levels. This is actually gonna be purposefully designed space.
Are you gonna show it? Like, are you gonna show us what this elevated bike rack is gonna look? Because that's what I'm wondering. Is it going to be like a very design?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you can see it from the exterior that it's very intentional. So we're actually going to bring all that inside as well. So since it is going to be visible to the public, you know, we want something that's going to be really nice and, you know.
So then I'm wondering if the museum and the bike thing are more of maybe there's a purpose to the museum that I'm still not understanding, but I wonder if it's more connected to the history of biking and there's something more interesting that actually would draw people to, because it sounds like this museum is a bit of like, we're gonna put something there, but we don't know if we're gonna.
It's dedicated to the Air Force.
Okay.
So the Air Force Association, it was their building. And they had this legacy wall, and as part of the pitch that High made to purchase the building, he told them he would honor their legacy, and we agreed to take those bricks and to reuse them somehow in the new building. And when they were moving out, they had so many artifacts and memorials and things and awards that they didn't have enough space for. And so we were going to help them find a place to display some of that memorabilia and to give them a place to come back. They built this building. This was their headquarters for 50 years. And just to create that space.
Street level, there's an opportunity there to push the design, like to have, you guys have all this creativity to put it in there. Like everything is kind of nice to do something a little punchier there with the museum, the bikes. I appreciate the idea of
and then
having all of that be
outside. We're actually
more
going to provide like a bike repair station as well along that outside terrace space. So it's going to be
thought to all of these items.
Yes.
At street level.
Yes, and access, you know, publicly.
And people interacting with them.
Exactly, yeah.
That whole Langston Boulevard, what we call the Langston Boulevard Plaza, which is that pedestrian zone that is next to the building between that and the trail. And we can talk about that now. We can talk about it with landscaping next time, but we want that to be a very nice area of respite, but also activation.
Yeah, I'm talking about the architecture, the
Yeah.
planting part we'll do later,
Well,
but
and so,
that whole facade there, that.
yeah, and the bicycle room, the concept of sort of activated design bicycle rooms really came about, I don't know, 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this time, where instead of going through the bike, you know, the bike rooms where you have to go into the lobby, or you have to go into the garage, and it's sort of in a hidden space, you can actually take space that's along the main streets or along highly visible areas and create kind of mini shop storefront looking things to encourage the usage of bicycles and make them directly
We've
accessible.
done it in Italy with Vespas.
Yeah.
Get it.
So, yeah, so having that Langston
That's what
Boulevard
I meant
area,
as getting, yeah.
you know, having the museum, having the bike room, and then the entrance to the lobby, all kind of work.
Last thing to add about that museum, it was they during the ownership, they donate that green area to Northern Virginia Conservation Trust. So you complete the story to anchor the gallery there.
Yeah.
They donated. So this is.
I just would hate to have three things
Yeah.
versus something that flows together, so it's an experience for whoever.
So there's a purpose that we anchor the
Yeah.
gallery there to complete the story and also to honor the heritage.
We think it does flow.
Really quick, because I want to keep it moving. We're getting into final.
Orientation, south versus north. The facades, I haven't seen much of the north facade, but if, you know, if there's some articulation between, it's not just a massing issue, it's also, you know, sun exposure, the height changes, the architecture facing Langston is different from the architecture facing the other side. So I appreciate the shifting of volumes very much. As I said, Bjarke Ingalls is within you, but I personally think that having one type of material all around can be, or not to create enough opacity where the sun hits hard, it can be a problem. So something that can be integrated in the design is this kind of flowing of materials and textures that activate even more this idea of fluid shapes. That would help you also with sun exposure and heat gain.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it. Yes, you, sir.
I have a couple of questions on biophilic features, but it sounds like that they should be reserved for that.
Yes, next meeting, please.
Okay.
Stay tuned. It's exciting.
Okay, I'll just make one comment on it. This is probably one of the most impressive emphasis on biophilic features I've seen in a project for a very long time. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Peterson, raise your hand. No, you're good. Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to, the suggestion from Commissioner Steinberger about reworking some of the design to, or representing some of the design to show the architectural, kind of how the architectural design meshes with the townhome community, I think is an excellent suggestion. I think in addition to that, I want to support that suggestion by also saying, so looking at the rendering, I'm looking at your slide deck. I could not tell that this is a stone facade. Before you meet with the association on May 20th at our annual meeting, I would very strongly recommend that you prepare some renderings that actually show that this is a stone. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is a metallic building with glass. And this is not the intention of the design. So there's a disconnect between the visual and the actual. So you need to close that gap very quickly. And you need to do it also before May 20th, because I would recommend that you not present these renderings to the community, to the PPOA community at our annual meeting, but actually show the recommendation of how the stone design can architecturally mesh with the brick design of PPOA townhomes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think again, for that presentation, that to the townhome community, that's important. I think it's also helpful to see in the context of the planning experience.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go to you, sir, and then you had raised your hand, and then we're going to do I'm going to do a check, see this public comment, and then we're going to do final comments. I think that's my plan. Yes.
Awesome. I'm apparently very bad at asking on-topic questions, so I'm going to try really hard.
Okay, I'll tell you if you get it wrong.
Okay, all right.
Just kidding.
Really hard.
You're fine.
So There are two ways to measure density. And this is, I think, it's Torres, is that right, Commissioner Torres' question? So obviously with the use proposed, it's units per acre. But were this a commercial building, it'd be a different measurement of density. This is all lead up to asking, if this remained a commercial building, what is the maximum allowable floor to area ratio density, and how far are you from that today with this proposal?
Generally speaking, you're at a 1.5 FAR under the C1.5 zoning district. I think the existing building exceeds that. I don't know by how much though. And so anything above the 1.5, you would have to earn through community benefits if it were a commercial building. And so you would be doing, you wouldn't be doing on-site affordable because it'd be commercial, but you would make a contribution. Maybe there might be, improvements for area transportation or area open space like Gateway Park or something like that.
What is the FAR calculation for this building?
It is 3.67 if you did it just by square footage.
Okay. So it's curious feature of the zoning ordinance that you convert the usage and you double the density.
Correct. And that in certain zoning districts, it's to encourage certain uses over others.
It is an interesting conversation. Not, however, ZOCO meeting. So, should that be an area of your interest, please attend our ZOCO meeting.
But in the things that we're talking about doing, such as narrowing Langston, that might be seen as being a community benefit. There's not just a standard street, frontage that you wouldn't get community benefit credit for. Opening up an area to make something publicly accessible that's not publicly accessible right now, doing improvements in the conservation area, potential community benefit. Those get negotiated out, but since this is residential, we're not seeking that bonus density.
Okay, actually, I'm going to use, you would raise your hand before, or no more, yes?
Sure.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Are you, following up on Commissioner Peterson's comments, are you proposing to use bird-friendly glass in the building?
We are continuing to look at that.
So it's not set in stone.
Yeah.
It would be great to have an answer in time for the second SPRC meeting where we discuss sustainability.
Correct.
Yep.
It would help us a lot.
We will be asking about that. So, you're home.
Bird friendly.
And we like it.
Yeah.
And maybe bird lighting, bird safe lighting.
Well, I don't even know about that. We'll co-cover that at the next meeting. And one second, before I go to a couple more comments, is there any, we don't have anyone online, I believe, who's doing for public comment. Anyone in the room seeking to do public comment? Okay, then we will wrap up with the members of the SPRC. This was the chance to tell me if you wanted to make public comment. Hearing nothing, there will not be public comment because no one has asked to make public comment. Commissioner Peterson, I saw first, then I'll go to you, ma'am.
Yeah, so I just have a question kind of teeing us up for the next meeting when we'll talk about transportation. If VDOT does not approve the proposed transportation improvements, then how does that impact the building? And if that lack of approval comes after we have gone through our SPRC process, is it a major site plan amendment, a minor site plan amendment? Would there be additional opportunities for the community to weigh in and say, we don't like what you've proposed since VDOT rejected the plan. We would like you to do it a different way. So don't have to answer that now since we're not doing transportation, but if that can be prepared for the next meeting.
Sure.
And following up on that. Oh, that's.
I've already called
okay.
on this.
Because she was looking at.
Okay, just an easy question. Is in the commercial space, is there anything planned besides a convenience store?
There's no convenience store. It's the museum. The 1,266 square foot museum.
Convenience store was something that was contemplated because they wanted to have activation on the street level, but instead we're getting a museum.
Oh, gotcha.
You have to bring your own snacks.
Which makes
questions very relevant. Your earlier questions about, well, how often would it be open? Because if the purpose is for activation, but it's always.
Well, again, and we're expected to get some answers on that for next time.
Okay,
yes.
It was just in terms as far as the open space, any of it, then is available to the public. I mean, except, the access to the museum.
Yeah, so the area that is right along Langston Boulevard would be open to the public. The interior courtyard and the terrace spaces would be open to the residents of the building. And then the 8,000 square foot conservation area that's on the western side of the property, that is currently private, but we are hoping to open that up to the public with trails and those sorts of things.
Thank you. Will we have more information on that for next
Absolutely.
time?
Yep.
Okay, with sustainability or fit it somewhere.
And by affiliate, yep.
Okay, now Commissioner, tell me, then.
Yes. Teeing up for the next meeting, if you could give reasons why for the pedestrian and bike trail, we can't have a cycle track here. Because the flaw of what VDOT did in front of the Marriott site was combining it to this huge, taking a lane and putting a huge piece of asphalt and having bikes and people walking together. As you noted, when you come down that trail, and I'm guilty of it too, zipping down really, really too fast. Could we have here an actual true cycle track and a pedestrian walkway? That's the question for the next meeting.
We met about this earlier this week and we're happy to provide an updated.
Great.
I would like to know that too, Dee.
We'll be in touch.
I look forward to. Yes, sir.
So the museum spaces attracted a lot of comments, and I think what I'm hearing is that there was a commitment that was made to the Air Force Association to honor its tradition. Simple question, but two parts. What was that a legal and binding commitment that was made to the Air Force Association? And follow on. Okay. And then follow on question. Was any analysis done to suggest that commercial space here would not be economically viable or anything of that sort?
Not to the best of my knowledge. No. It was what we wanted to propose and come to the table with.
We are going to, keeping us on schedule, I'm going to do a round of last comments, final thoughts from members of the SPRC. You do not have to share a final thought. This is your chance to do so if you would like to. We're just going to go around robin in the room. So, sir, in the black hoodie vest, your turn first if you'd like.
I don't have any final comments. I made my comment. Thank you.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Overall, I really like the design of the building. It's very beautiful. I would even say sexy. I am concerned that it's breaking some of the things that were planned for the site, but if it's gonna break some of the regular rules, then it might as well look good, so.
There you go. And I'll go at the very end.
I think all my thoughts are gonna be employed. I'm gonna try to have some questions before, we should try to circulate before. So you see.
Yeah, and that's fair game. If you have questions to share with staff for the meeting, we can try to get those information. Second SPRC.
Yeah, I'll have to offer that.
Sure, great. Okay, yeah, please, that would be great.
Pedestrian advisory committee is really interesting. So, yeah.
Skip your friend.
No further comment.
Yeah, just quick remark. Thank you for the presentation, and I want to thank Andrew for collaborative dialogue.
No, it's been good. I think having discussions with Rafi and you in particular, been good. Thanks.
Not much. I like the design. I want to echo the housing diversity. That's great. And then also the VDOT, just keeping that in mind, because I know it's good that, we're doing it, but people, VDOT.
Yeah, just, I think it's one of the better projects that we have seen before the planning commission in a while.
I will say just sorry, Joe Ventron. Oh, sorry, I'm positive. Blah, blah, blah. Joe, your turn, and then it's Nia Bagley Strong.
I have no comment. I just am happy that we're seeing a condominium being built.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Bagley?
Yeah, Joe just said exactly what I was feeling too. Thank you.
Any other members of the team? Okay. So then I guess my final sort of brief comments. I too like the building design. I'm excited that it looks different than other things we have seen in Arlington to this point. And I say that because I'm legitimately excited by that. Sometimes I feel like everything that's built looks like everything else that was previously built, and this does not read that way, and I'm very grateful for that. I think that there are real constraints to this site, topographical and otherwise. I'm very pleased that we are the applicant's going to be reusing the garage area. I think that's a real energy savings and something we'd probably address in the sustainability conversation next week as well. I think we've given the applicant some homework with regards to the museum, with regards to sort of seeing visuals of what this building in context with the townhomes, you know, neighboring it will really look like directly.
Bird glass.
Bird glass, yes, I know that was written down in very large letters. I saw that. And in terms of sort of the walkthrough of what the landscaping will look like, and we look forward to that for next time. I really appreciate everyone's feedback tonight. I think it's a very productive conversation. You know, it's a complicated site, and we'll do this again in approximately 2 months. So stay tuned. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.